The sky above Eshin Prime burned orange and red. It was not a sunset. It was war. High Elder Lyrith stood at the great window of the council tower and watched another city die. The Korath swarm had arrived 3 days ago. 3 days of fire. 3 days of screaming. 3 days of death. The Velari were not built for war. Their bodies were thin and delicate, made of something like living crystal. They had evolved on a peaceful moon, where the temperature never changed, and no predator ever hunted them. They were scientists, artists, dreamers. They had never needed weapons. Now they needed them desperately. "High Elder," said a young aide, her voice shaking. "The eastern continent has gone dark. We have lost contact with 40 million people." Lyrith closed his ancient eyes. 40 million. Gone. Just like that. The Korath did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. Every living thing on a planet became food for the swarm. Biomass to build more ships, more soldiers, more hunger. "Send another message to the Concordat," Lyrith said. "Tell them we are dying." The aide looked down. "High Elder, we have sent 900 messages. They do not answer." The Galactic Concordat. The great alliance of civilized species. The Velari had been loyal members for 2,000 years. They had shared their science, their art, their knowledge. They had believed the Concordat would protect them. They had believed wrong. Lyrith turned from the window. His old body ached. He had lived for 300 years, and he had never felt so tired. "Send the message on all frequencies," he said. "Not just Concordat channels. All of them. Every species. Every sector. Someone must hear us. Someone must care." The aide hesitated. "All frequencies. But that would reach the quarantine zones. The forbidden sectors. I know what it would reach," Lyrith said quietly. "Send it anyway. We have no choice left." The message went out into the dark between stars. It was simple. It was desperate. It said, "We are the Velari of Eshin Prime. We are under attack. We cannot fight. We cannot run. Please, if anyone can hear us, help." And then they waited. Far across the galaxy, in a region of space that every civilized species avoided, the message arrived. Sector 7G had many names. The Concordat called it the Quarantine Zone. Some species called it the Forbidden Region, but most simply called it what it was: Deathworlder space. The flagship Indomitable drifted in orbit above a blue and green world. Earth. A planet that should not have produced intelligent life. A planet where the ground shook and split open, where mountains exploded with liquid fire, where the weather could freeze you solid or burn you alive, sometimes in the same day, where every creature, from the smallest insect to the largest beast, had evolved to kill. And somehow, against all logic, humans had risen from that hell. They had not just survived their world. They had conquered it. They had spread to the stars, and the galaxy had responded with fear. Admiral Kang Taeho sat in his command chair and listened to the Velari message. He was a tall man, with gray at his temples and scars on his hands. He had fought in 3 wars and buried too many friends. His face showed nothing as the desperate voice filled the bridge. "Sir," said his communications officer, "that signal is from outside our sector. Way outside. It is from Concordat space." "I heard," Taeho said. "The Concordat has made it very clear that we are not welcome in their territory. If we cross the border, they might consider it an act of war." Taeho was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his bridge crew waited. They knew that look. They had seen it before. "How long would it take us to reach Eshin Prime?" Taeho asked. The navigation officer checked her screens. 14 hours at maximum speed. "But Admiral, the Concordat is not answering them," Taeho said. "I listened to the message. 900 calls for help. No response." He stood up from his chair. "Those people are dying. Their allies have abandoned them. And we are close enough to do something about it. We have no treaty with the Valari, the communications officer said carefully. We owe them nothing. Tejo looked at him. No, we do not. But since when do humans only help people who can pay us back? He walked to the main view screen and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a peaceful species was being eaten alive. Their friends had left them to die. And humanity, the monsters of the galaxy, the creatures that everyone feared, had heard their cry. Contact the Second Fleet, Tejo said. All ships. Tell them to prepare for immediate departure. Admiral, that is 47 warships, 12,000 Marines. You want to send all of them? I want to send a message, Tejo said. To the Valari. To the Korath. To the whole damn galaxy. He turned to face his crew. The Concordat thinks we are animals, dangerous beasts to be locked away. Fine. Let them think that. But when innocent people scream for help and no one answers, we answer. That is who we are. That is what makes us human. The bridge was silent. Then, one by one, his officers nodded. Set course for Eshin Prime, Tejo ordered. Maximum speed, and send a message ahead. Tell the Valari that help is coming. What should the message say, sir? Tejo allowed himself a small smile. Tell them the Deathworlders send their regards. 14 hours later, the Valari looked up at their burning sky and saw something new. Massive shapes dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Ships covered in armor and weapons. Ships built for war. High Elder Lyrith received the transmission on his personal communicator. A human voice. Valari Command, this is Admiral Kang Tejo of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Please advise on enemy positions. Lyrith's hands trembled as he held the communicator. Tears ran down his crystalline face. Someone had answered. The monsters had come to save them. The Valari had seen ships before. Elegant vessels with smooth curves and soft lights. Ships built by civilized species who valued beauty and efficiency. The human ships were not elegant. They were ugly. They were brutal. They looked like weapons with engines attached. Their hulls were thick and scarred, covered in armor plates and gun turrets. They moved through space like predators, quick and purposeful. High Elder Lyrith watched from the council tower as 47 of these metal beasts took position in orbit. His people were afraid. They had called for help. Yes, but they had not expected this. High Elder, whispered one of his advisors. Are we certain this is wise? The records say humans are extremely dangerous. They are classified as Class 1-2 apex predators, the highest rating possible. The Korath are eating our children, Lyrith replied. I will take dangerous over dead. A shuttle detached from the largest human ship and descended toward the council tower. It was not a graceful landing. The shuttle came down hard and fast, thrusters firing at the last moment. The ground shook when it touched down. A door opened. Figures stepped out. Commander Yoon Nari was the first human that Lyrith had ever seen in person. She was shorter than he expected, compact, solid. She wore heavy armor and carried weapons on her belt. Her face was calm, but her eyes moved constantly, watching everything, scanning for threats. Behind her came a dozen soldiers. They moved differently than any species Lyrith had encountered. They did not walk. They prowled. Every step was controlled, balanced, ready to explode into action. And they wore no environment suits. Lyrith felt his heart freeze. The air on Eshin Prime was thin. The temperature was cold. Most species needed protection to survive here. The humans breathed the thin air like it was nothing. They ignored the cold completely. High Elder Lyrith? Nari asked. Her voice was rough but not unkind. Yes. Commander Yoon Nari. Marine Strike Division. She looked around at the crystalline buildings. The delicate Valari watching from windows. Nice place. Shame about the bugs. The Korath are not insects, Lirith said carefully. They are a hive-minded species of extreme. Oh, teen. They have 6 legs and they eat people, Nari interrupted. Close enough to bugs for me. She turned to one of her soldiers. Sergeant Han, get me a tactical map. I want to know where these things are concentrated. Lirith watched in amazement as the humans immediately began working. They set up equipment. They studied maps. They talked in quick, short sentences. There was no ceremony. No lengthy greetings. No diplomatic formalities. They simply got to work. Commander Yoon, Lirith said. I must ask, why did you come? The Concordat has treaties with us. You do not. We have never even spoken to humans before today. Nari paused. She looked at the old Valari with something strange in her eyes. It took Lirith a moment to recognize it. It was sadness. I heard your message, she said. You were begging for help. You said please. I have a little sister back on Earth. If she was in trouble and crying for help, I would want someone to answer. She shrugged. So we answered. But we have treated your kind badly. The Concordat calls you dangerous animals. They quarantined your entire species. Yeah, well. Nari almost smiled. The Concordat is not here. We are. A holographic display flickered to life. Admiral Tejo appeared. Transmitted from the Indomitable, in orbit. He looked tired, but focused. Hi, Elder Lirith. I am Admiral Kang Tejo. I command this fleet. I need information. How many Korath ships are in your system? Where are they landing? How many of your people are still alive? Lirith provided what he knew. It was not much. Tejo listened without expression. When Lirith finished, the Admiral nodded. We will handle the ships in orbit. Commander Yoon will lead ground operations to push the Korath back from your population centers. He paused. I have to be honest with you, High Elder. We have never fought the Korath before. We do not know exactly what we are facing. But we have fought other things. Things on our own world. Things that most species cannot imagine. What things? Lirith asked. Tejo was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. Our world, Earth, is what the Concordat calls a Class 1-2 death world. The temperature can range from -50 to +50 degrees in a single day. The ground shakes and opens up beneath our feet. Mountains explode and cover entire regions in fire and ash. The oceans rise up in waves taller than this tower and destroy everything in their path. Every animal on our world evolved to kill or be killed. Even the plants can be poisonous. Even the bacteria fight wars inside our bodies every single day. Lirith stared. He could not speak. We did not evolve to be peaceful. Tejo continued. We evolved to survive. Everything on our world tried to kill us, and we killed it back. We hunted predators until they feared us. We conquered every environment. We survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have ended most species. His eyes were hard. The Concordat looks at us and sees monsters. Maybe they are right. But right now, you need monsters. And we are very good at what we do. Nari stepped forward. High Elder, we need access to your shelter locations. There are Valari trapped in occupied zones. We are going to get them out. We have round from estate. We have due axe as Wana. The Korath have taken those areas, Lirith said. Anyone who goes there will die. Nari smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator. That is what the Korath think, she said. Let us teach them otherwise. She turned and marched back toward her shuttle, her soldiers following. Lirith watched them go. These strange, terrifying creatures who breathed poison air and shrugged off freezing cold. Who came from a world of nightmares? Who answered a stranger's cry for help simply because someone had to? Perhaps they were monsters, but they were his monsters now, and the Korath had no idea what was coming for them. The Korath had conquered 117 worlds. They had consumed species that had existed for millions of years. They had faced weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. Nothing had ever stopped them. They did not understand fear. They were the swarm. They were endless. They were hunger itself. Until today, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin sat in the cockpit of her fighter and watched the Korath fleet through her targeting screen. Hundreds of bioships, living vessels grown from consumed biomass, covered in acid guns and organic missiles. They moved like a cloud of insects, dark and terrible against the stars. Viper Squadron, this is Viper-led, Soo-jin said into her radio. Viper 2. Copy. Viper 3. Ready to dance. Viper 4. Let us show these bugs what humans taste like. Soo-jin smiled. Her pilots were insane. She loved every one of them. The carrier Soul's Fury launched its fighters. 60 small ships screaming into the void, engines burning blue fire. The Korath detected them immediately. The swarm turned. Thousands of acid projectiles streaked through space toward the humans. Any other species would have scattered. The Valari had tried to run. The Concordates, automated, defense ships, had tried to dodge. Soo-jin flew straight into the barrage. Her ship shuddered as acid splashed against the hull. Warning lights flickered. She ignored them. Human ships were built for Deathworld conditions. They were designed to survive asteroid fields and radiation storms and magnetic waves that would tear normal vessels apart. A little acid was nothing. Guns free! Soo-jin shouted. Viper Squadron opened fire. Railgun rounds punched through bioships like needles through paper. Missiles exploded inside organic hulls. The Korath formation broke apart in fire and screaming static. The swarm had never faced pilots like this. Human reflexes were faster than any species the Korath had encountered. Human ships were tougher than anything the swarm had tried to eat. And humans did not stop. They did not retreat. They pushed deeper into the swarm, killing and killing and killing. Viper-led, this is indomitable. Admiral Tejo's voice crackled over the radio. Excellent work. Push them toward Grid 7. Our main guns will finish them. Copy, Admiral. Pushing now. Soo-jin rolled her ship and dove toward a Korath carrier. It was huge. 10 times the size of her fighter, covered in weapons. She did not care. She had grown up on Earth, in a coastal city where typhoons struck every summer. She had learned to fly in thunderstorms that would terrify most species. One big, ugly alien ship did not scare her. She fired her missiles straight into its main eye. The carrier screamed, a psychic wail that made her head throb. Then, it exploded. Scratch 1 carrier, she reported. Viper Squadron, form up on me. We are not done yet. On the surface of Eshin Prime, the real nightmare was beginning. Commander Yoon Nari dropped from the sky in a transport ship that was taking heavy fire. The Korath had infested an entire city. Millions of Valari were trapped in underground shelters, running out of air and food. The creatures above them were digging down, trying to reach the meat hiding beneath the crystal streets. 30 seconds to landing zone, the pilot shouted. Too slow, Nari said. She hit the release on her harness and moved to the rear door. Open it. Commander, we are still 50 meters up. I said open it. The door opened. Nari looked down at the chaos below. Korath soldiers swarmed through the streets. They were horrible things. 6-legged and covered in chitin armor. Their mouths dripping with acid. They looked up at the human transport and screeched. Nari jumped. Her powered armor absorbed the impact. She hit the ground like a meteor, cracking the crystal street beneath her boots. Before she could even stand fully upright, 3 Korath were charging at her. She shot the first one in the face. She grabbed the second one and broke its neck with her hands. The third one sprayed acid at her. She stepped aside, let it splash against a wall, and put 2 rounds through its skull. Marines, on me! Her soldiers dropped around her. 12 humans in powered armor, carrying weapons that would be considered heavy artillery by most species. They formed a circle, back to back, and began to kill. The Korath had numbers. They had millions of soldiers. They threw themselves at the humans in endless waves, climbing over the bodies of their dead to reach the invaders. The humans held. Sergeant Major Han Minji was everywhere. She was older than most Marines, her hair streaked with gray, but she fought like a demon. Her rifle never stopped firing. When she ran out of ammunition, she used her combat knife. When her knife broke, she used her fists. "Push forward," Nari shouted. "The shelter entrance is 200 meters ahead." They pushed. Step by step, through a sea of Korath bodies. The creatures kept coming. The humans kept killing them. Private First Class Oh Jinwoo was only 19 years old. He had joined the Marines 6 months ago. He had never seen real combat before today. Now he was covered in alien blood, and his arm was broken, and he was terrified. But he did not run. A Korath grabbed him from behind. He felt its claws pierce his armor, felt its acid breath on his neck. He twisted, jammed his pistol under its chin, and fired. "Jinwoo." "I am fine, Sergeant." His voice was shaking. "I am fine. They reached the shelter entrance. Nari blasted the door open. Inside, hundreds of Valari stared up at her with huge, terrified eyes. "Everyone out," Nari ordered. "Stay behind us. Keep your heads down." The Valari scrambled out of the shelter. They were fragile and slow and scared out of their minds. The Marines surrounded them, forming a protective wall of armored bodies. "Transport is 2 minutes out," someone shouted. 2 minutes. Against the entire Korath swarm. Nari reloaded her rifle and smiled her predator smile. "Then we hold for 2 minutes. Marines, show them what Earth breeds." They held. When the transport finally arrived and lifted off with the survivors, Nari looked back at the city below. Thousands of Korath bodies lay in the streets. Her Marines were battered and bloody. But every single one was alive. She opened a channel to the Admiral. "Sector clear. Package secured. Requesting new target." There was a pause. Then Taeho's voice, tired but proud. "Outstanding work, Commander. There are 4 more shelters that need extraction. Can you continue?" Nari looked at her Marines. They were exhausted. They were hurt. They were grinning. "Sir, we are just getting warmed up." Far above, in orbit, the Korath Overmind watched through 1,000 eyes. It had consumed civilizations. It had ended empires. And for the first time in 10,000 years, it felt something cold crawling through its ancient mind. The humans had a word for it: fear. The Overmind had existed for 10,000 years. It was the brain of the swarm, the central intelligence that controlled every Korath soldier, every ship, every thought. It had absorbed the memories of 1,000 species. It knew things that would drive lesser minds insane. It had never been confused before. It had never been uncertain. Now it was both. The creatures called humans were wrong. They should not exist. The Overmind had accessed the Concordate's records, pulled from the memories of absorbed diplomats and scientists. It had read about Earth, a Class 1-2 death world, the most dangerous rating possible, a planet of fire and ice and poison and constant, endless violence. The records said that intelligent life could not evolve on such a world. The conditions were too extreme. The competition was too fierce. Any developing species would be destroyed by its own environment long before it could achieve technology. And yet humans had done it. They had crawled out of that hell and reached the stars. And they had become exactly what their world had made them: predators. The Overmind watched the battle through its million eyes. It watched human fighters tear through its bioships like they were made of paper. It watched human soldiers walk through its acid barrages without dying. It watched them kill and keep killing, never stopping, never retreating, never showing fear. This was wrong. Everything was wrong. The Overmind made a decision it had never made before. It opened a communication channel, not to the Velari. The Velari were prey. They did not matter to the humans. Admiral Kang Taeho was on the bridge of the Indomitable when the message arrived. His tactical officer, Captain Baek Hana, looked up from her screens with wide eyes. "Admiral, we are receiving a direct transmission. It is coming from the Korath command ship." Taeho felt something cold in his stomach. "Put it through." The view screen flickered. For a moment, there was nothing but static. Then a voice filled the bridge. It was not really a voice. It was 1,000 voices speaking together, layered on top of each other, creating something that sounded almost like a single mind speaking. "You are not of this region." Taeho stood up from his chair. He had faced many enemies in his life. He had never faced anything like this. "No," he said calmly. "We are not. You are not of any known pattern. Your ships do not match any design in our memory. Your soldiers do not fight like any species we have consumed. What are you?" "We are human. We come from Earth." There was a pause. The Overmind was searching, processing. "Earth. We have found the records. Class 1-2 Death World. Quarantine Zone designation. Extinction level environment. Native sapience display." The voice paused again. "Persistence hunting. Pattern recognition. Pack bonding with non-sapient species. Extreme environmental adaptation. Anomalous pain tolerance." Another pause. "Psychological phenomenon classified as spite." Captain Hana glanced at Taeho. "Spite, sir? It is a human thing," Taeho replied quietly. "Keep listening." "You should not exist," the Overmind said. "Your world should have killed you. The statistics are clear. No intelligent species should be able to evolve on such a planet. It is impossible. And yet here we are." The Overmind was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, there was something new in its 1,000 voices. Something that sounded almost like curiosity. "How? How did you survive?" Taeho thought about the question. He thought about Earth. About the ice ages that had nearly frozen humanity out of existence. About the plagues that had killed half the population. About the wars and famines and disasters that had struck again and again, always threatening to end everything. And he thought about how humans had responded. Not by giving up. Not by accepting death. But by fighting. By adapting. By refusing to die, no matter what the universe threw at them. "We survived because we had to," Taeho said. "We did not have a choice. Our world tried to kill us every single day. So we learned to kill it back. We hunted the predators that hunted us. We built shelters against the storms. We found cures for the diseases. We fought and bled and died, generation after generation, until there was nothing on our planet that could threaten us anymore." He paused. "Then we looked up at the stars and decided to do the same thing there." "You are insane," the Overmind said. "No rational species would develop under such conditions. You should have died. You should have surrendered to entropy." "We do not surrender," Taeho said. "We do not know how. It is not in our nature." "Then we will teach you." The Overmind's voice changed. The curiosity was gone. Now there was only cold, ancient hunger. "We have consumed 117 worlds. We have ended species that existed for millions of years. We have absorbed intelligences that thought themselves gods. You are strong, humans. Stronger than we expected. But you are still finite. You are still flesh and blood. And we are endless. We are the swarm. We are hunger eternal." Taeho smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Are you trying to scare me? We are stating facts. You cannot defeat us. You may kill 1 million of our soldiers. We will grow 2 million more. You may destroy 1,000 of our ships. We will grow 10,000. We are patient. We are eternal. You will run out of ammunition before we run out of bodies. Maybe, Tejo agreed. But here is something your records probably did not tell you about humans. We do not need to win. We just need to make winning cost more than you are willing to pay. What do you mean? I mean that you have never fought something like us before. You have fought species that surrendered when they were losing. You have fought species that valued survival more than victory. You have fought rational creatures who knew when to give up. Tejo leaned forward. Humans are not rational. We hold grudges. We fight when there is no hope of winning. We destroy things just so our enemies cannot have them. We call it spite. And we are very, very good at it. The Overmind was silent. So here is my offer, Tejo continued. Leave this system. Leave the Valari alone. Go find easier prey somewhere else. Or stay and fight us. But know this. Even if you win, even if you consume every last human in this fleet, you will pay for it. We will make you bleed. We will make you remember us. And every time you look at the scars we leave on your swarm, you will wonder if the next species you try to eat will be even worse. There was a very long pause. You are bluffing, the Overmind finally said. Try me. Another pause. Then the thousand voices spoke with cold finality. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. We consume. Then I guess we understand each other, Tejo said. See you on the battlefield. The transmission ended. Captain Hana let out a breath she had been holding. Admiral, did you just threaten an ancient hive mind that controls millions of soldiers? Yes. Did it work? Tejo looked at his tactical display. The Korath fleet was moving. Not retreating. Advancing. Every ship. Every soldier. The Overmind was committing everything. No. Tejo said calmly. It did not work. They are coming with everything they have. He turned to face his crew. Which means we do the same. All hands? Battle stations. Tell Commander Yoon to pull her people back. This is about to get very ugly. The alarms began to wail. The final battle was coming, and humanity was ready. The Battle of Ishan Prime would be remembered for 1,000 years. The Korath swarm came with everything. Every bioship in their fleet. Every soldier. Every weapon. The Overmind had decided that these strange creatures from the Death World must be destroyed completely. No survivors. No mercy. Total consumption. They did not understand what they had awakened. Admiral Kang Tejo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the swarm approach on his tactical display. Thousands of contacts. A wall of living ships stretching across the stars. All ships, he said calmly into the fleet channel. This is Admiral Tejo. The enemy is committing their full force. They believe numbers will defeat us. They believe we will break. They are wrong. He paused. We are human. We do not break. We bend. We bleed. We suffer. And then we win. Today, we show the galaxy what Earth breeds. Today, we make them remember us. All ships, engage at will. The Second Fleet moved forward to meet the swarm. Nuclear fire bloomed in the darkness between stars. Railgun rounds punched through bioships and kept going, hitting more ships behind them. Missiles streaked through the void, each one carrying enough destruction to level a city. The Korath fired back. Acid projectiles melted through human armor. Living torpedoes rammed into human ships and exploded. Psychic disruption waves swept across the fleet, trying to drive the human crews insane. It was not enough. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin led Viper Squadron into the heart of the swarm. Half her pilots were dead. Her own ship was barely holding together. She did not care. Viper. Lead to all remaining Vipers. Target the command ship. That is where the Overmind is. We cut off the head. The body dies. Viper 5, copy. Following you in, lead. Viper 9. I have lost my main guns. I will ram them if I have to. Negative on the ram, 9. Save that for later. We have work to do. They flew into the storm of acid and fire. Sujin watched her squadron die around her, one ship at a time. Viper 5 took a direct hit and exploded. Viper 9's engines gave out. One by one, they fell. But they kept going. On the ground, the final battle raged through the streets of the last Velari city still standing. Commander Yoon Nari had lost count of how many Korath she had killed. Her armor was cracked. Her weapons were running low on power. Half her Marines were wounded. They kept fighting. "Commander!" Sergeant Major Han Minji shouted over the chaos. "The Admiral is ordering us to pull back. They are going to hit this area with orbital bombardment." "Negative," Nari shouted back. "There are still civilians in the Eastern District. We cannot leave them, Commander. We do not have enough people to. Then we do it with what we have. Minji, take your team east. Get those people out. I will hold the line here." Minji hesitated for only a second. Then she nodded and ran. Nari turned back to face the endless wave of Korath soldiers. She had 12 rounds left in her rifle. She had 2 grenades on her belt. She had her knife. She smiled. "Come on then," she whispered. "Let us see who runs out first. Private First Class." Oh, Jinwoo should have been dead. His armor was destroyed. His broken arm screamed with every movement. He had lost his rifle somewhere in the chaos. But he had found something better, a breach point. A narrow corridor where the Korath were trying to push through to reach the civilian evacuation zone. If they got through, thousands of Velari would die. Jinwoo stood in that corridor with a combat knife and a pistol with 6 rounds. The first Korath came screaming toward him. He shot it in the face. The second one got close enough to slash his shoulder. He stabbed it through the eye. They kept coming. He fought for 1 hour, then 2, then 3. He ran out of bullets. He used his knife until it broke. He used his fists. He used his teeth. 6 hours. Alone. Bleeding. 19 years old, and more terrified than he had ever been in his life. But he held the line. When the evacuation was complete, and the Marines finally reached him, Jinwoo was standing on a pile of Korath bodies. He was barely conscious. He could not lift his arms. "Private," Minji said softly, looking at him with something like awe. "What did you do?" Jinwoo looked at her with exhausted eyes. "My job, Sergeant." In orbit, the battle reached its climax. Sergeant Major Han Minji led the assault on the Overmind's flagship. Her team had boarded through a breach in the hull, cutting their way through organic corridors filled with acid and screaming Korath defenders. They found the central cortex, the heart of the Overmind. A massive organic computer, made of consumed brains and stolen memories. It tried to speak to them. It tried to show them visions of their own deaths. It tried to drive them mad with fear. Minji laughed. "I grew up in Seoul," she said. "I survived 3 typhoons before I was 10. I watched my brother die in the Pacific War. I have buried more friends than you have consumed worlds." She raised the detonator in her hand. "You want to scare me? Get in line." Wud. She pressed the button. The Overmind's flagship exploded. The psychic death scream of the ancient intelligence swept across the entire system. Glass shattered on 3 continents. Velari fell to their knees, clutching their heads. And then, silence. Without the Overmind, the Korath became mindless. Their ships drifted. Their soldiers stopped fighting. They were just animals now. Confused and purposeless. The human fleet destroyed them systematically, without mercy. When the battle finally ended, Admiral Taeho stood at the great window of his bridge and looked down at Ishan Prime. The planet was scarred and burning in places, but it was still there. The Velari had survived. His fleet had paid a terrible price. 17 ships destroyed, 3,000 soldiers dead, but they had won. High Elder Lirith's transmission came through on his personal channel. "Admiral Taeho, I do not know what to say. You saved us. Your people died for us. We cannot ever repay this debt." Taeho was quiet for a moment. He thought about the dead, about Park Sujin, who had died ramming her damaged fighter into a Korath carrier, about the Marines, who had held the line against impossible odds, about Private Jinwoo, who had fought alone for 6 hours with nothing but a knife. "You do not owe us anything," Taeho said finally. "We did not come here for payment. Then why? We have treated your kind as monsters." Taeho smiled sadly. "Because someone was screaming for help, and we were close enough to answer. That is reason enough." "Creasy." There was a long silence. Then Lirith spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "I am going to send a message to the Galactic Concordat. I am going to tell them what happened here. What you did. Who you really are." He paused. "You are not monsters, Admiral. I do not know what you are. But you are not monsters." 1 week later, High Elder Lirith addressed the entire Galactic Concordat. "You labeled them dangerous. You quarantined them. You treated them as animals to be feared and avoided. And when we were dying, when we screamed for help and you did nothing, they came. Not for territory, not for resources, not for power. They came because they heard us screaming. They came because someone had to." He paused. "I have seen what humans are capable of. I have seen them fight through wounds that would kill any other species. I have seen them laugh in the face of death. I have seen them sacrifice everything for strangers they had never met. You call them monsters. You call them Deathworlders. But I call them something else." His voice broke. "I call them heroes." The Valari formally requested humanity's admission to the Galactic Concordat, not as quarantined predators, as allies, as equals, as friends. The vote passed unanimously. Admiral Taeho received the news on the bridge of the Indomitable, surrounded by his surviving crew. He read the message twice, then looked up at the stars. "Well," Captain Hana said, "I guess we are part of the galactic community now. What do we do?" Taeho thought about it. He thought about Earth, the death world that had made them. He thought about all the species out there who were afraid and alone, with no one to help them. "The same thing we have always done," he said. "We survive. We fight. And when someone needs help, we answer." He turned to face his crew. "Set course for home. Our people need to know what happened here. And then," he smiled, "we see what comes next." The Indomitable turned toward Earth. Behind it, the scarred but living world of Eshin Prime slowly began to heal. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. And somewhere out there, in the dark between stars, other species heard the story of the Deathworlders who came to save strangers. Other species began to wonder. Maybe they were not monsters after all. Maybe they were exactly what the galaxy needed.